The ranchers wanted to be able to control the elk numbers. They also wanted to have some help in handling the issue of what do you do with 400 or 500 phone calls a year asking for the privilege of coming to hunt and so forth. So that's monkey on the back idea. And fourthly, there was the general consensus was that there was too little access. The reason we had too many elk was we didn't let enough people come hunting. Okay, that's the common story. So once we had identified the basic problems, it took about 30 minutes to come up with proposals that didn't have more adverse secondary and tertiary consequences than the problem that they immediately solved. And that was one of our operating ideas, was that we wanted a congenial community to live with. This was a highly valued objective. Secondly, we wanted to not have to change law. That was way beyond anything we felt we had the interest in doing, but we thought that we could probably achieve a great deal by just tweaking how laws were administered, particularly by Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. The third thing was that we wanted to have a viable economic community. And the revenue of livestock production in the area is $4 or $5 million coming out of there, and most of that is sold out of state, which means the money's coming in, and not all bad, okay? Some of it even goes to Japan. So we wanted to avoid anything which would jeopardize reasonable revenue. All these adjectives like reasonable, of course, are subject to interpretation. We came up with the most complicated hunting season ever invented by the human mind, but it dealt with all these issues. We invented an early elk hunting season to take care of elk that were feeding on people's oat fields. That's the first week of October. Problem with that, of course, it can be 75 above and the elk rots in the field and whatever. And so it proved not to be very useful, because then we had a wake-up bull season. The other objective was to improve the quality of the bulls in the area. Following a fire in 1990 in the Beartooth, the winter count on our ranch was 1,100 elk, of which 13 were branch-antlered bulls. And everyone said, it's all the outfitters' fault. It's somebody else's fault, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So we decided that if we were going to do something about the bull ratio, we had to include everybody, or exclude everybody to a certain degree. We couldn't blame anybody in particular. So we came up with a season that would wake up the bulls. You could only shoot cows a week before the regular season. Then we restricted the harvest of bulls to the first 2 weeks of the 5-week general season. The last 3 weeks, it was by permit only. And the 50 either sex permits that allowed bull hunting the last 3 weeks have become the most desirable draw for elk in the state of Montana. Matter of fact, between the block hunting and the telephone systems get shut down when the time comes to call in for these privileges. To see what we accomplished is to note that out of 1,000 elk today, we would probably have over 200 branch-antlered bulls. Now, it's a little scary when you start calculating what the underlying base of animals has to be to produce a 6-year-old bull. I mean, it's dozens and dozens and dozens of animals behind that when you play with. So it's a very, very expensive thing to accomplish. And this season that limited open hunting on bulls to 2 weeks alienated, of course, some full-season outfitters. But we really didn't have full-season outfitters within the Devil's Kitchen management area itself. And the ranchers had been outfitting for a week or two, but that was about all. And we were willing to trade this outfitting opportunity for the privilege of trying to control the herd numbers. And all these things were effective trade-offs, and I don't know, whose rights we stepped on in the process, but our opportunity was only to suggest to the managers of the public lands or the Fish and Game Department what we thought as a group that had come and met openly could accomplish these reasonable goals. And interestingly, the Fish and Game Commission bought into it in its entirety. And for a few generations of the Fish and Game Commission, we were essentially rubber stamped. That is, anything that we came up with that was legal, they said they would grant to us. Why? Because they claimed we had delved deeper into the issues than they could ever do as a commission, with limited to hearings and all the rest. I mean, we really did get down and dirty and listen to what everybody had to say. So very, very briefly, who were the winners and who were the losers? As you might expect, in the beginning, there were people there who were highly extreme. I'd say the Jim Posowitz style, if I can pick on him, who would get all the ranchers off the foothills of the Rocky Mountain front and turn it all over to whatever. And then there were the diehard, more than conservative property rights people who didn't want to even talk to us. Okay, not very many, frankly, and pretty soon they were coming back and talking to us. In between, there were a lot of people who gave what they thought had been certain, if not property rights, certain ownership rights. They gave up some of this for the privilege of having an access to hunt very, very nice bull elk. And I forgot to tell you that part of this 50 permit deal was a guarantee on the part of the ranchers that we would accept free of charge these 50 people to hunt a bull elk. And they get 3 or 4 days to do so, and there are always bull elk there. And if they don't get one, they're just too damn lazy or too particular. But the point I'm trying to make is this, that there are various measures of success. And the one that we ranchers think is most important, given that we have not controlled the elk. There's 2,500 now instead of 2,015 years ago or whatever. But we cannot point our fingers at anybody, nor can they point their fingers at us. Charles Darwin is the culprit. The elk are adaptive survival machines, okay? And our capacity to respond to their changing behavior is 4 or 5 years behind what they're doing. I mean, they are marvelous surviving machines, okay? They're great animals, okay? But they are alarmingly successful at what they do. For instance, year after year after year, whether it rains or shines, okay, I'm done, okay. Our cow elk produce 65 calves per 100 antlerless elk. 15% of them are usually female yearlings that couldn't have a calf, so we're having a 75% calf crop on, say, 1,500 cow elk. Do the calculation. 1,200 calves born a year, and we're harvesting 400 or 500.